Michelle has. Don't do this. That would.
Stop it. Get some help.
Once, women in WWE were treated as eye candy. In terms of wrestling, the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era were majorly dominated by male athletes. Major storyline revolved around them. In an interview, a female legend even mentioned that how her punches were so real and hard-hitting that the company told them to tone it down. That's how serious it became. But those days, long gone. The women's revolution changed everything, transforming them from an afterthought into a driving force. Today, I'm showing you 10 matches that forced WWE to take its women's division seriously. Buckle up, because these are the matches that made history.
I am no pervert.
For years, WWE's women's division was treated more like entertainment than actual wrestling. But in 2004, Trish Stratus and Lita changed the perception forever. This rivalry was already deeply personal. Both women had become the face of the division, constantly trying to prove that women could do far more than just short filler matches. And when WWE announced that Trish and Lita would main event Monday Night Raw, it was historic. For the first time ever, two women were trusted to close WWE's biggest weekly show. And then, match itself delivered. The crowd was completely invested from the start. Lita brought her high-risk offense. Trish answered with aggression and confidence. And both women wrestled with a level of intensity rarely seen in the women's division at that time. Every near fall felt important. Lita eventually picked up the victory and won the women's championship. But the real victory was much bigger than the title itself. Without Trish and Lita breaking the barrier in 2004 may never have happened. By 2006, WWE's women's division was still struggling to be taken seriously. But Trish Stratus and Mickie James changed that with one of the most memorable storylines of that era. What started as admiration quickly turned into obsession. As Mickie became disturbingly attached to Trish week after week, the rivalry felt weird, personal, and unpredictable, and fans were completely invested in seeing the final showdown at WrestleMania 22. And when the match finally happened, Mickie stole the entire spotlight. Her performance felt chaotic and unhinged, while Trish tried to survive both the mind games and the aggression. The crowd reaction were loud throughout the match because this feud had become much bigger than just women's championship. In the end, Mickie defeated Trish to become the new champion in a genuine shock moment. But this match mattered for a bigger reason. It proved that women's wrestling could succeed through storytelling, character work, and emotional investment. For years, WWE's women's division had great moments, but WrestleMania 39 felt different. This felt like two complete superstars stepping onto the biggest stage possible. Rhea Ripley entered the match after winning the Royal Rumble and choosing Charlotte Flair, the same woman who defeated her at WrestleMania 36. This wasn't just about the championship anymore, it was about redemption. And once the match started, both women delivered something special. The match was physical, intense, and non-stop for beginning to end. From Charlotte's brutal top rope Spanish fly to Rhea surviving huge offense and continuing to push forward, every moment felt important. The pacing kept getting bigger and bigger, and by the final stretch, the match genuinely felt like one of the biggest fights on the entire WrestleMania card. Then came the ending. Rhea Ripley finally defeated Charlotte Flair and completed her redemption story in one of the defining victories of her career. It proved that women's wrestling no longer needed historic stipulation or special treatment to stand out. A straight-up wrestling match was enough to completely steal the show. Sometimes, one match doesn't just create a champion, it creates the next phase of an entire division. And that's exactly what happened at WrestleMania 38. The rivalry between Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair started months earlier at SummerSlam 2021, when Becky returned and shockingly defeated Bianca in just seconds. Fans were furious. Bianca had spent an entire year building momentum, only for it to disappear instantly. But instead of letting that moment destroy her credibility, WWE turned it into a long-term redemption story. Bianca spent months fighting her way back, while Becky constantly tried to prove she was still untouchable at the top. By the time WrestleMania arrived, the audience desperately wanted to see Bianca finally get revenge. And the match delivered on every level. The atmosphere felt massive from the start. Bianca entered with confidence and power, while Becky wrestled with desperation and arrogance, trying to hold on to her spot as the face of the division. The chemistry between both women were incredible, and the near fall kept the crowd fully invested throughout the match. Then came the ending. Bianca countered the manhandle slam into the KOD and finally defeated Becky Lynch in one of the loudest moments of the night. This was the moment WWE fully established Bianca Belair as the true WrestleMania level superstar. It showed that a new generation of women could headline major events and carry the company into the future. And in many ways, this match officially completed Bianca's transformation from rising star to franchise player. Just like we are trying to make plays in YouTube's wrestling community. Subscribe to our channel and make us grow big. Your ideas are welcomed for future products. Now, back to the business. Before WrestleMania 34, Asuka felt unstoppable. She wasn't just winning matches, she was dominating WWE with an undefeated streak that had lasted for years across both NXT and the main roster. Fans genuinely started believing that nobody could beat her. Then came Charlotte Flair. After winning the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, Asuka made a shocking decision. Instead of choosing an easier path, she challenged Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown's Women's Championship at WrestleMania. It was champions versus streak, and the pressure around the match instantly made it feel special. Many fans saw it as a dream match between two of the best female wrestlers in the world. And once the bell rang, the match completely lived up to the hype. Both women wrestled at an unbelievably high level. Charlotte targeted Asuka's leg to slow down her offense, while Asuka constantly fought back with strikes, submissions, and speed. The crowd reacted to every near fall because nobody truly knew if the streak would survive. Then came the shocking ending. Charlotte forced Asuka to tap out, ending one of the most dominant streaks in modern WWE history. The result divided fans, but the importance of the match can't be ignored. This match wasn't treated like a side attraction anymore. It felt like a genuine high-stake sporting event. And even years later, Asuka vs Charlotte remains one of the most respected pure wrestling matches in WWE women's history. For decades, matches like Hell in a Cell were seen as something only the men could handle. The structure represented violence, danger, and main event pressure. And WWE had never trusted women with that responsibility before. That changed in 2016. The rivalry between Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair had already become one of the defining feuds of women's evolution. Both women were constantly trading the championship back and forth, trying to prove who truly deserved to lead the division. But the competition became so intense that WWE made history by announcing the first ever women's Hell in a Cell match. And even more importantly, the first women's match to ever main event a WWE pay-per-view. Both women delivered a match that felt brutal, emotional, and important. Charlotte used the cell environment to punish Sasha relentlessly, while Sasha kept fighting throughout the pain with pure determination. The crowd reacted to every dangerous moment because this didn't feel like WWE was allowing women to do a gimmick match anymore. It felt like both wrestlers genuinely earned their place inside Hell in a Cell. Charlotte eventually defeated Sasha Banks to regain the Women's Championship. But the result wasn't the biggest story. The real impact was the statement this match made for the entire industry. This was the moment WWE officially broke one of its oldest barriers. Women's were no longer limited to standard matches or smaller roles on the card. They could now headline pay-per-view, compete inside WWE's most dangerous stipulation, and still deliver at the highest level. Before 2015, many fans still believed women's wrestling in WWE had a ceiling. Good matches were possible, but emotional classics, main event level storytelling, that was still rare. Then Bayley and Sasha Banks changed everything at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. The story heading into the match was perfect. Sasha Banks had transformed into the boss, confident, arrogant, and completely dominant as NXT's women's champion. Meanwhile, Bayley was the underdog fans genuinely wanted to believe in. She wasn't the flashy superstar or the cocky heel. She was the hardworking babyface trying to prove she belonged at the top. And because the audience was emotionally invested in both women, the match instantly felt special before it even started. Once the bell rang, they delivered something far bigger than anybody expected. The match had everything: emotion, drama, near fall, storytelling, and unbelievable crowd reaction. Sasha constantly targeted Bayley's injured head, while Bayley kept surviving through pure determination. Every kickout made the audience louder, and by the final moments, the entire crowd was completely invested in Bayley finally overcoming the odds. And then finally, Bayley hits the Bayley to Belly and defeated Sasha Banks to win the NXT Women's Championship. It completely changed how WWE fans viewed women's wrestling. And in many ways, Bayley versus Sasha at TakeOver Brooklyn became the true beginning of women's evolution era. Sasha Banks had already built a legacy as one of the key faces of women's evolution, while Bianca Belair was the rising superstar who had won the Royal Rumble and was ready for the biggest moment yet. But beyond the championship itself, this match carried historic importance. It became the first WrestleMania main event ever headlined by two black women, and the emotion of that moment was visible immediately. Then once the bell rang, both women delivered under enormous pressure. Sasha used her experience and confidence to control the pace, while Bianca constantly fought back with her athleticism and raw power. The crowd reaction kept growing louder with every near fall, and the match slowly transformed into one of the most memorable WrestleMania women's match ever. Then came the ending. Bianca countered Sasha, hit the KOD, and became the new SmackDown Women's Champion in a massive WrestleMania moment. This match represented a new era of WWE. It showed that women from completely different backgrounds, styles, and journeys could stand at the center of the WrestleMania and create history together. Before the women's evolution officially became a movement, there were 4 women in NXT quietly changing the entire future of WWE: Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Becky Lynch. The 4 horsewomen at NXT TakeOver Rival. All 4 collided in a fatal 4-way match for the NXT Women's Championship, and at that time, many fans expected just another solid women's match. But what they got instead was a glimpse into the future of WWE itself. Each wrestler entered the match with completely different identity. Charlotte was dominant champion, trying to protect her throne. Sasha Banks was becoming the boss and wanted to prove she was the true star of the division. Bayley was still the lovable underdog, while Becky Lynch was desperately trying to break out from the shadow and make a name for herself. And because every competitor had something to prove, the match never slowed down. The action felt faster, more aggressive, and more emotionally charged. The chemistry between all 4 women were incredible. The crowd stayed invested throughout the entire match. Sasha Banks eventually won the championship, but the bigger story was what this match represented. This wasn't just 4 talented wrestlers having a great match. This was the birth of WWE's modern women's division. The 4 horsewomen became the foundation of the women's evolution. For decades, women in WWE fought for opportunity that men were automatically given. Better storytelling, more time, bigger matches, main event respect. Then in 2019, history was finally made. Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Ronda Rousey became the first women ever to main event WrestleMania. And the journey to that moment was massive. Becky Lynch had turned into biggest star in WWE after her rise as the Man, with fans completely behind her rebellious attitude and anti-hero personality. Charlotte Flair was already established as the face of the women's division, while Ronda Rousey brought mainstream attention and legitimacy from the UFC world. What started as a personal rivalry slowly transformed into something much bigger. The crowd reaction were loud, emotional, and fully invested because fans understood they were watching a moment WWE had never allowed before. The match itself was chaotic, physical, and intense, with all the three women constantly fighting to prove they deserve to stand at top of the industry. Becky Lynch pinned Ronda Rousey and walked out of WrestleMania holding both women's championships, completing one of the biggest moments in WWE's history. But this match changed far more than just the title picture. This was the moment women's wrestling fully shattered WWE's final barrier. Women were no longer fighting for acceptance anymore. They had officially become the main event. And because of WrestleMania 35, the future generations of female wrestlers would grow up knowing that headlining the biggest show in WrestleMania was no longer impossible, it was achievable. Shout out to few matches. Even though these matches didn't make the final top 10, their impact on WWE's women's division still deserve recognition. The first Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. This match represented another major step toward equality in WWE. The first Women's Elimination Chamber match. The Elimination Chamber had always been viewed as one of the WWE's most brutal match type, so when the women finally entered the structure in 2018, it symbolized yet another barrier being broken. Bayley vs Sasha Banks, Hell in a Cell. This wasn't just a championship match, it was the emotional ending to one of the WWE's longest running friendship and rivalry. Charlotte Flair vs Becky Lynch, Last Women Standing. Many fans still consider this one of the hardest hitting women's match WWE has ever produced. Both Becky and Charlotte pushed each other to absolute limit using weapons, ladders, and pure aggression. For years, women's wrestling in WWE was treated as secondary, short matches, limited opportunities, and very little respect compared to the men's division. But these matches changed everything, from Trish Stratus and Lita proving women could main event Raw, to Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Ronda Rousey headlining WrestleMania. Every single moment on this list helped build the women's evolution piece by piece. And the most impressive part, the division is still evolving. Today's women are stealing show, carrying major storylines, and delivering some of the best matches in all of wrestling. Something that once felt impossible in WWE. But now, I wanna know your opinion. Did these 10 matches truly revolutionize WWE forever? Or do you think another match deserved a spot on this list? Comment your picks below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notification for more WWE content like this. And until next time, keep wrestling!